Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome back, my esteemed students, to the second part of lesson number 8 in unit number 8. Let's do the first practice number B. Read again the text in exercise number A. Give each paragraph a heading from this list. Subject survey, the importance of Greek, history of scientific language, science journals, English and law, and then facts about English. So let's read again the text. But in this time I will read this text in the correct order. So I will begin from the first paragraph. If a scientist in Libya wants to communicate with a scientist in Japan, which language will they communicate in? The answer is probably in English. Does this mean that English is becoming the international language of science and technology? Just consider these facts. 80% of science books and journals throughout the world are published in English. Many scientific conferences in non-English speaking countries are being conducted in English. 80% of information stored in the world's computers is in English. Most communication on the internet widely used by scientists is in English. Statistics do seem to suggest that English is, in fact, the new scientific lingua franca. The following paragraph number 2 in the proper order. English, however, hasn't always been dominant in science. In earlier periods in history, Greek, Arabic, Latin, and German have at one time or another been the leading language of science. English became important in the 17th century with the rise of British science. Scientific publications in English, such as philosophical transactions produced by the Royal Society in London, were read throughout the world scientific community. But the position was soon lost to German, which became the dominant language of science until the First World War in 1914. After the war, the growing influence of the United States made sure that English once again became the most important language in scientific publishing. The third paragraph says, since the Second World War, many scientific journals have started to publish in English instead of in the national language. For example, the Mexican journal Archivos de Investigación Médica was originally published in Spanish. Later, abstracts of each article were introduced in English. Then, articles appeared in Spanish with a complete English translation. Finally, the journal was published entirely in English and had an American editor. The name of the journal has changed to Archives of Medical Research. This language shift has also occurred in other countries. In France, for example, a survey in the 1980s showed that nearly 2/3 of publications by French scientists were in English. And the last paragraph, number 4, says, some science subjects have been more affected than others by this shift towards English. The table shows the results of the survey of German academics. Over 98% of the German academics in the field of physics claimed that English was their working language. Other pure science such as chemistry and biology also had high scores in the survey. On the other hand, subjects such as law, theology, classics, and history used English much less frequently. Will the situation continue, or like Latin 300 years ago, will it be replaced by another language of science? Now, after reading the text, these are the answers. Number 1, facts about English. Number 2, history of scientific language. Number 3, science journals. And in number 4, subject survey. Now let's do practice number E. Close your workbook, work in pairs, answer the questions. Then check your answers in the text on workbook page number 57. Number 1. What percentage of information in the world's computers in English? 2. When did English first become an important scientific language? 3. What language was the Mexican journal Archives of Medical Research originally published in? 4. What did the survey of French science journal show? Then, the next one. Who were involved in the survey of languages in science? And number 6. In which subject is English used most as a working language according to the survey in Germany? So here are the answers. Number 1. 80% is in English. 80% is in English. This is the percentage. 2. In the 17th century. In the 17th century. What about the third one? Number 3. What language was the Mexican journal Archives of Medical Research originally published in? It was originally published in Spanish language. Number 4. What did the survey of French science journals show? It shows 2/3 of the journals were in English. Number 5. Who were involved in the survey of languages in science? German academics. And then, number 6. In which subject is English used most as a working language according to the survey in Germany? English is most widely used in physics. Now, we have practice number F. Work in groups, discuss these questions. Number 1. Why is English used more in the pure science, for example, physics, chemistry, and biology, than in subjects like law, theology, classics, and history? Number 2. What do you think will happen to English in the future as the language of science? What other languages could replace it? Number 3. What are the advantages and disadvantages of one language being used as the international language of science? Here are the answers. Number 1. Pure sciences are more international, whereas subjects such as law, classics, history, and so on are more regional and are connected to a particular culture and language. Number 2. What do you think will happen to English in the future as the language of science, and what other languages could replace it? Some people think that Chinese will be the dominant language of the 21st century. Number 3. What are the advantages and disadvantages of one language being used as the international language of science? A common language is a disadvantage to scientists from non-English speaking countries or scientists who are not good at learning a foreign language. The advantages are that information can be spread much more quickly. Points out that when the science books of the Arabs were translated into Latin, they could then be read throughout the universities of the world. Now, after doing this exercise, let's conclude this lesson. Thank you very much for listening. And finally, I want to say to everybody of you, goodbye.